Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated series from 1987, Season 1, which is available right here on the YouTube machine. You should see a link for it at the top, and I'll put a link in the description below. This is an animated series, obviously inspired by the Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird graphic novels or comic books, which I've done a video on previously. But it's striking how different the series is from the comic books. The comic books felt very sort of broad and scattered in what they were doing. You've got the Turtles fighting Shredder. You've got the Turtles going to various outer space planets and other dimensions, fighting other villains here on Earth in New York City. You've got this sort of wide range of stuff that happens, whereas the series seems much more focused. Shredder, it's a 5-episode original series. Shredder is the main antagonist for each of those episodes. And even when they borrow storylines directly from the comic books, like the Mousers that are programmed to hunt down Splinter, it's not that Baxter Stockton, who's I can't remember what the name of the scientist is in the comic books, but in the animated series, it's Baxter Stockton. Baxter Stockton is not the driving force behind that. Yes, he invents the Mousers, but his plan is genuinely, let's eliminate rodents from the city. It's Shredder who doesn't even buy. He just sort of takes the designs for the Mousers and mass produces them with the intention of hunting down Splinter. Because Shredder is really, really focused on wiping out Splinter / Hamato Yoshi, because that's another difference, and the Turtles. Like, ultimately, his goal, along with Lord Krang, who seems to be based on a species of character from the comic books, but they weren't really villains per se. They were just trying to get back to their home planet or home dimension. I can't remember which. And the Turtles end up going along for the ride. Lord Krang is actually a villain. He's a proper villain. He's from Dimension X, and his objective is to conquer the world as soon as he can get this portal to Dimension X open and bring across his stone warriors. And he's been giving Shredder a bunch of advanced technology with which Shredder is supposed to A, build Krang a body, and B, take over the world. Shredder, for his part, becomes much more focused on taking out Hamato Yoshi and the Turtles. This seems to be an overwhelming obsession, and he makes the argument repeatedly to Krang that as long as the Turtles and Hamato Yoshi are alive, their entire operation is in danger. But he never actually supports that with any evidence. Like, sure, the Turtles defeat him and Krang repeatedly. Throughout all 5 of the first episodes, Shredder loses. Krang, when he gets into the fight after Shredder agrees to build him a body, Krang loses to the Turtles. Yeah. But you've got a fucking advanced technology mobile base. Just take it out of New York City. The Turtles aren't following you to Phoenix or Beijing or fucking wherever. Just go somewhere else. Leave New York City. Destroy the city from afar. Problem solved. You don't have to send your ninja robots, because the Foot Clan members aren't actually humans in this, they're robots. You don't have to send your ninja robots or robotic mousers or mutated street punks whose DNA has been combined with that of a rhinoceros and a warthog. You don't have to send those people out to fist fight the Ninja Turtles. You've got advanced technology. You build a nuke, destroy New York City. From there, it's easy. It's simple. Supervillains, stop being dumb about this shit. Just fucking use your advanced technology and destroy stuff from afar. Don't get beat up. Anyway, that's a digression. So one of the other differences here, and this is actually different both from the comic books, but also from the first live action film, because we do get in all three instances the origin story of the Ninja Turtles, but it varies in each one. The story here in the animated series is that Hamato Yoshi and Oroku Saki, Hamato Yoshi was the mentor of Oroku Saki within the Foot Clan, the noble Foot Clan, which was apparently not always an organization of thieves and assassins and whatnot. They were a noble organization, and Hamato Yoshi was a top guy there. But when a respected sensei came to visit, Oroku Saki puts a dagger in the back of Hamato Yoshi's robe. I'm a little bit sick, so I'm having trouble thinking. So Oroku Saki puts a dagger in the back of Hamato Yoshi's robe, pinning him to the wall so that he can't bow to the sensei. And then Hamato Yoshi finds the dagger, takes it out, and they're like, you've come to assassinate our sensei, huh? And they throw him out of the Foot Clan. And so he does the natural thing, where he goes to New York City, lives in the sewers, and makes friends with a bunch of rats. Yeah, that's what he does. That makes perfect sense. That's the immigrant experience right there. No, it's this weird thing. It doesn't make any sense at all. Going to New York, fine. But I mean, there's a thriving Japanese-American community in New York City. Why not just be a normal human being and, live in an apartment or something? But no, Hamato Yoshi decides that he's going to live in the sewers with the rats, makes friends with them. And so, years later, when, for some reason, Oroku Saki has come to New York, adopted the persona of the Shredder, and realizes that Hamato Yoshi is living in the sewers with some rats and 4 turtles, Oroku Saki decides the best way to kill his old mentor is to dump some mutagenic ooze on him. So the mutagenic ooze, the way that it works in this version is that your DNA combines with whatever other type of creature you had most recently touched. So the turtles had most recently been touched by Hamato Yoshi, so they mutate into human-turtle hybrids. Hamato Yoshi had most recently touched the rats, so he mutates into a rat-human hybrid and becomes Splinter. This is not really how mutations work, how mutagenic things work, as far as I know. It seems like that would not be the case, but you know what? It's how they explain things in this. Again, this version varies somewhat from the comic book version and the live-action film version, both of which I talked about in my videos on those media. Yeah. So the other thing that I found interesting about rewatching the animated series especially after reading the graphic novel, the comic books, and rewatching the live action movies is that most of the turtles here have more defined qualities than they do in the comic books. But Raphael has less defined qualities than he does in the live action movies. So it's an interesting sort of middle ground. Because, so in all three iterations, Donatello is the tech guy, right? He's the one who likes machines, he invents stuff, he tinkers, etc., etc. That never changes. He is across these different forms, I would say, the most defined and consistent character in that sense. Leonardo is probably the second most defined and consistent character in that he's kind of the leader, he's most dedicated, he is the one who, in the animated series, is always saying, "We have to consult with Master Splinter before we take any further action." You know, he's the official guy. He's the company man who does what he's supposed to do and takes on a leadership role. In the comic books, I feel like Michelangelo and Raphael's characters are not particularly well defined. What exactly it is that makes them as distinct entities. In the animated series, Michelangelo is much more defined as the sort of fun-loving, goofy, party animal character. Raphael is somewhat rude, but it's really toned down. I mean, this is obviously a kid-friendly show, and so they're not going to make him the sort of angry figure that he is in the live-action movies. But I feel like that's a much more defined role for him. Like, who he actually is makes a lot more sense as the angry turtle. The turtle who is resentful, who has this sort of deep unhappiness. So it's an interesting sort of middle ground in terms of how the turtles are actually portrayed. And so, again, we get this sort of transition where we can see the distinction between the comic books on the one hand, and the live action movies, which I think sort of represent the furthest sort of pinnacle, or the points of the spectrum in this original trilogy of media, and then the animated series is somewhere in the middle.